Well, hello, and welcome. Today we will be covering Solidity and covering the blockchain blockchain tokenomics, in which we'll be building our first nope. Oh, JavaScript. Hi, welcome to the JavaScript series, in which we'll be actually dealing with arrays and working with the actual map feature, the map array method that we'll be able to actually utilize in order to actually iterate over the actual arrays that we have. So let's get started and see exactly how we're going to do this. And without further ado, looks like I have a couple of arrays already up on the screen. So let's review. As you can see, I have two arrays. One is the array of numbers, and the second one is an array of objects. And what we're going to do here, obviously we are familiar with just kind of iterating over them using a for loop, which you may have seen in the previous videos in the playlist for JavaScript. But in this case here, let's just make sure we can actually log something out just to make sure that we are getting something here. I'm just working within the Visual Studio Code, and I have the node terminal to the right. And let's just see if we can actually print out the actual numbers itself. And that's just clear, and there we go. All right, so on line 1, we just printed out the actual contents of the actual array. So now let's actually use the actual map method itself, and let's see what types of weird things or good things that we can actually get here. So line 18, let's get rid of this. And let me just check the time here. Just want to make sure we get through this one relatively quick and undo that. All right, so let's let nums equal numbers.map. So before, in the previous video, you may have seen that we actually used the filter method, but in this case now we're going to use yet another array method that we can use is map. And it does take up to 3 parameters, in which we'll probably cover just two of those, in which you can actually go to the Mozilla site in order to actually look up different things in regards to the actual map function or anything dealing with JavaScript in general. But let's see what we can do. If we want to just list out the actual items itself, so we can actually just use the word item or data. Or we can just put D. It is completely up to you. I'm just going to use the word item, in which this is basically going to be the variable name or callback function that will allow us to iterate through everything of the actual array itself. So if we wanted to just do console.log, well, actually, let's just say, let's use the variable item and basically just return everything that is actually there. So if we console log nums, let's see what we actually get. So if we console log nums, and I go back over to the terminal here, press up, and we see we get the exact same thing, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're just taking this iterator and we're just going through and basically returning the contents of this all the way into our nums variable. But now if we were to change this, and if we were to say, let's take item and multiply every item in there times 2. And now let's see what we would get. We'll go right back over here, and now we're going to iterate through everything in line number 1, which is this is the array that we're actually using. And now we're going to multiply everything in that array times 2. So what we're going to do now, I'll just press the up button, and now we see instead of the 1, 3, 7, and 9, now what we have is the 2, 6, 14, and 18. So that was just a nice quick little fix that we can actually utilize on that there. Now, but here's the weird thing whenever you're starting to actually use the map feature itself. One of the weird things that you'll see is when you try to, actually let me just copy it, just so you can actually keep it for your notes there, and I'll do this. I'll comment it out, copy it, and make a slight change here. And now we're going to try to evaluate everything in there that is greater than 2. Now let's see what we get here. Now here, instead of actually returning the actual contents of the actual array itself, what we're actually getting is we're getting the indexes, whether it's true or false. So as we can see, we have what is greater than 2. Well, the first index is false. The second index value is 3, which is definitely greater than 2. Then from there, we have the 7 and the 9, which is also greater than that. So that's why we have true, 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 and true. So in this case, this is one of those weird cases where you're like, well, wait a minute, I thought I would just get an array that would actually have the contents of everything in the numbers array that was actually greater than 2. But see, in that case, that's when we actually use the filter. Now this one here will filter out, we'll iterate all, we'll take the item and we'll say which items are actually greater than 2. Now this will, well, instead of saying will, let's actually just see the contents. And here we have a new array that's actually returned of only the arrays that are of all of the items that is actually greater than 2. And in this case, it is 3, 7, and 9. So we're excluding the 1 here. So that we do get. But that was with the filter method. So let's actually comment that out. And what I'll do is I'll go below that and we'll go over a couple more examples of what we can actually do with that. Let's see, I think we did the multiplication already, which is definitely fine. How else can we utilize the map feature? Well, let's go over to the my object on line number 3, and let's say this. Let's say we're going to take the actual item itself, and what we're going to do is let's open this up a little bit, and then from there we can kind of still iterate through the actual array. But what we want to do is kind of say, you know what, let's kind of go through it and say, let's get all of the items that are, still greater than 3, in which that's what we were trying to do before, but we were actually getting the false, true, 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 which is over here in the terminal itself. But let's actually do something else. Let's do some type of calculation here, or actually let's push some items out of our object. So here we have, actually first, let's use, instead of numbers, we'll actually go over the actual object. Okay, and just like before, we can actually just see exactly what we have, just to make sure we're getting everything, just to make sure it is iterating over everything in the actual object. And I'll change the name here, and I'll just put my object, or my OBJ, for lack of better words, right? Lack of better variable names. And then I'll press up and enter, and here we are getting all the contents of the actual object or the array of object, which is definitely nice. And so now what I'm going to do is, let's say, you know what, let's break this up a little bit. Let's say if I'm getting all of the contents of the array, what if I want a new array of objects? A new array of objects where every item in there is actually just the item name. So now I'm going to say, you know what? Let's use item. Item represents every object pieced here in the actual array. And let's return item.name into the myObject variable here. So let's do that. All right, so now let's press up. And now what I have here, what's returned is, and actually let's just call it name array, just so we can kind of look at it a little bit better. It is obviously, you've seen the outcome already, but just double check. Let's clear it out and up. And now we have our own name. We have a name array. So now we no longer have, this object still exists. This array of objects still exists. But we do have now the name array. So let's see here. What can we do? What else can we do here? So that's a very good way of actually using the map array method to actually create new arrays. Let's comment that out, and let's see if we can go through one more thing here, in which what we may want to do is, let's say, let's do let. How else can we break up this my object? We have ages, so let's say let new ages or older ages, or actually, how about ages? We have age of 22, we have age 33, and we have age 77. So let's say ages over 22. We'll do that. All right, and what are we going to do here? We're going to take the my object, which is the array of object, and we're going to map over it, and we're going to say item, and what we're going to do here for that is let's open it up, and then what we can do is say if item dot age is greater than 22, then we can do something. And that do something is going to be add to new array. If I can actually write a comment here, add to new array. All right, and obviously I didn't write any code there because sometimes what you may want to do is just write comments and then try to knock these pieces out, little by little. So where are we going to put that new array? Let's actually create an actual empty array above the actual map, and let's say let new age array. I'm horrible at naming variables here. New age array. Okay, and that's going to equal an empty array. And the only reason why we're doing that is because we just need a placeholder. We need something to actually hold the new mapped features here. So we're iterating over the actual object of arrays, and we're going to use that for, let's see, new age dot push. What are we pushing in here? All of the item dot age. Is it all of the item dot ages? Yeah. If item dot age, let's push. Actually, let's push that item itself. So what are we doing here? If the item dot age is actually greater than 22, then push that particular item into the new age array, and then let's see what we get. Let's see if that actually works here. Sometimes you go too far and you're like, wait a minute, let's see if it actually works. And what we're going to actually log out here is ages over 22. And let's see, let's go over here, let's press up, and I'm getting undefined here. So if we're not going to do that, ages over 22, let's do ages item dot age. All right, so now we're going to get all of the actual ages. So it's going to be a new array where all of the actual ages are actually above 22. So let's try that. So before we got undefined, all right, so we're like, okay, wait a minute, maybe our logic doesn't work here. So let's press up, and still getting nothing there. New age array, empty. I'm pushing the actual item. Let's see. All right, well, let's see what we have here. If item dot age, an item is everything in the my object, which is fine. If item dot age is greater than 22, then push item dot age into that. And then from there, what we want to do is we did have item, and we actually, oh, well, wait a minute, what age is over 22? Oh, okay, we're actually printing out the wrong thing here. So the reason why is because the new age array itself is empty, but it's not empty anymore because it's going to go through, iterate everything in the actual object itself, and actually print everything that is over 22. So let's try that. And here now we get our new array, in which we get 33 and 77. Okay, so this was our holder. We iterated through everything in the actual array of objects, and now we have a new array of 33 and 22 because our logic inside it had an if check to see if the actual age was over 22. So definitely a couple of different ways to kind of play around with the map feature. It's always curious to actually work with the numbers array or the objects array, or the numbers array and the my object, which is an array of objects. Playing around with those, seeing different examples, and just kind of going from there. All right, so that was the map feature for array methods today. Like and of course subscribe. If you have any questions, feel free to actually mention anything in the comments, and I will talk with you later. Stack out. Hey, Stack here. Just wanted to jump right back in and just kind of remember before we were looking at actually printing out the wrong thing here. But I think before here we were actually getting the contents of 33 and 77, in which we were pushing the actual age itself. But if we did want the entire object itself that actually came back, then of course we could still make sure that we are actually pushing the entire object, or the, depending on what we're looking for. So if the item.age is greater than 22, instead of getting just the 33 and 77 within the new array, let's actually get back the entire, in which there's 3 objects here. Then let's actually get back the 2 objects instead. All right, so let's still retrieve an array of objects, but the array of objects based on what we're actually searching for. So let's press up on that, scroll down so you can actually see the logic. And here now we have, again, just the actual 2 objects itself, and not including anything where the age, if the item.age is over 22. So just wanted to jump back in and just make sure that we were able to see that. Okay, thanks again. Stack out.